Yo, yo, what's poppin'? Yeah, shut him down. 25 years. Yo, time be fucking flying, man. I don't even be knowing where the fuck time be going and shit. 25 years. That's crazy, bro. I remember we did that fucking album. Niggas was wildin'. Niggas was wildin'. But let me talk about this shit, man. Shut him down. 25 years. Yo, that's the first album that Onyx collaborated with anybody outside of Official Nas. You know what I'm saying? That was the first time we collaborated with other artists on that album. If you know anything about Onyx albums, the first album was Back the Fuck Up. You know what I'm saying? 30th anniversary this year. Second album, All We Got Is Us. You know, Walk in New York, Last Days, Evil Streets. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to P.I., Panama P.I. on that joint. And then Shut 'Em Down, the third album on Def Jam. That album was crazy right there. A lot of people don't even know that album, that was the first time we had an A&R. Because usually we work with Jam Master Jay, JMJ Records, Randy Allen, you know what I'm saying? And that's who we was working with on the first album. You know what I'm saying? Jay was the A&R. Jay was making a lot of the decisions and, you know, he was putting the battery in our back to do a lot of songs. Him and Randy Allen. Randy was a big part of that shit, Can't Front. That was the first album. Then the second album, we kind of strayed away and did our own production. You know what I'm saying? We got with Adolf the Assassin, you know what I'm saying, Aguilar. He was with us in the camp, and we was just producing our own beats. In the crib in Jersey, we had a big ass crib, like with 4 floors. This shit was like the Onyx headquarters and shit in Jersey, Edgewater. And then, so the second album, yeah, we produced that whole shit. Jay wasn't even around the second album. You know what I'm saying? We would just meet with Jay once in a while playing records. And yeah, those were those records, Last Days and Evil Streets. And, you know, we was doing that with my man Rich Keller. Shout to Rich Keller, the engineer. We was up in his crib doing the second album. So, but the third album, we decided to work with a lot of different other producers. And we had an A&R. The A&R for the third album, Shut 'Em Down, was Irv Gotti from Murder Inc. Def Jam brought Irv in. He was a young kid, young brother coming in, you know what I'm saying? And he had the ear to the streets, you know? Sticky and Irv didn't get along at all. Sticky Fingers and Irv Gotti, they wasn't like, you know, because Irv came in there with kind of like a little attitude, you know. You know, he had to have that cocky attitude to do what he was doing. We was at Def Jam, so, you know, everybody at Def Jam was all about winning. So when Irv came in, like, we never had no A&R. So you got this nigga telling niggas, yo, do that over, and that ain't hard enough, and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So Sticky was like, who the fuck is this nigga coming in here? Yo, we already platinum, what the fuck you talking about? We don't even know you, nigga. And, but I got along with Irv, you know what I'm saying? I try to, like, work with him. And I remember vividly the song called Raise It Up. That was one of those records that Irv Gotti and Sticky Fingers, you know what I mean, was not agreeing. Like, it almost came to, like, you know what I'm saying? There was a lot of tension on that one record. I remember Raise It Up. Irv was like, yo, y'all got to come harder than that. I wish, we probably still do, but I'm sure there's a lot of outtakes from those albums that we didn't use, you know what I'm saying? We got to talk to Rich Keller about that. Yo, Rich Keller, we need to go through the vault, because I know there's a lot of outtakes and a lot of different verses on songs that people would never hear, like Raise It Up. There's a different version of Raise It Up, I think, on YouTube, but Raise It Up was one of those records, when you hear it right now, you hear the energy in that record. That record right there never got a video for. It was never a single. But to me, Raise It Up was one of the illest records on the Shut 'Em Down album. To me. You know what I'm saying? Produced by my man K Love. That beat right there is just that Raised It Up, just that whole vibe. And Irv Gotti was, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the anger on that record, because niggas was mad at that nigga trying to talk shit. But just like a good coach on a basketball team, you got to get the best out of your players. And I think he did that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that was the first time we had an A&R on the whole album. This nigga was around through the whole album, the process. You know, records like Shut 'Em Down with DMX. You know, rest in peace to the dog, man, Darkman X. That record was pure fire. Nobody, like Onyx and DMX on the record together was like fire. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, motherfucker just put gasoline on the microphone and lit that shit up. You know what I'm saying? And when we did that record, there was no, you know, send your record to my email and I'm gonna record and send my verse back. We was all in the studio, and there was no video cameras. You know, there was no Instagram, none of that shit, no YouTube back in the days. But when we made that record, Shut 'Em Down with DMX, we had the whole Official Nasty niggas in the studio, 20 niggas. Rough Riders came through with 30 niggas. DMX came through with a fucking dog. This nigga had a puppy with him. Straight up. Nigga had a puppy pit bull with him in the studio. It was mad niggas in the studio, all good energy. You know what I'm saying? We all came together, made that record. And I just want to shout Public Enemy, because Shut 'Em Down came from Public Enemy. If anybody know hip hop, y'all know that, right? I know y'all know that. Shout to Chuck D, Flavor Flav. The Shut 'Em Down whole chorus, the whole vibe came from Public Enemy. Shit, they even did a remix with P Rock. If you know hip hop, Shut 'Em Down, we got to give props to Public Enemy, because they gave us the energy for that record. You know what I'm saying? And when I heard the beat from Self-Service, played the beat. We went to Harlem. We went straight to Harlem. Self was living in Harlem. He was living in Harlem and shit by Rucker Park. So we used to go to Self crib late night. Used to park the fucking car by the bus terminal. We in Harlem late night, 2 a.m. type shit. And we going to get beats from Self-Service. So we going to Self crib in Harlem. We going up in the building. He live in the projects. You know what I'm saying? And could have been co-ops, I don't know, but it looked like projects to me. You know what I'm saying? We up in that motherfucker 2 a.m. He played his Shut 'Em Down beat. Made the shit right there in the spot. I was like, that sample was ill. You know what I'm saying? And we left that studio with that beat playing in the motherfucking Jeep, going back to Jersey. I was like, yeah, this shit is hard right here. This shit is hard. Came out with that chorus, Shut 'Em Down, Shut 'Em Down, Shut 'Em Down, Shut 'Em Down. And then I think we told Def Jam, like, yo, because Def Jam was like, yo, we just signed this new nigga named DMX. We want to get the nigga on the Onyx album. So we was like, yeah, this is the record right here. We want to put the nigga DMX on, Shut 'Em Down. And by that time, the nigga already had Where My Dog's At. You know, he had records with the Locks and them niggas, but he didn't put his album out yet. He was still kind of fresh, you know what I'm saying? Still kind of bubbling. So when we did Shut 'Em Down, nobody really knew who he was really yet. You know what I'm saying? He was just starting to really, like, you know, take New York over. So we was in the studio with this nigga, yo, him and Sticky Fingers, man. Them niggas was going head to head, like, it was like, just, you know, it was just like crazy. The energy was just crazy. Word. Word, shit was crazy, man. Rest in peace to DMX. And rest in peace to Big Pun. Because after we did the original version, we was like, yo, let's do the remix. So we got motherfucking Nori, Big Pun, you know what I'm saying? And we did the remix. And the remix came out crazy. That nigga self-flipped the beat up a little bit. He just like flipped it up a little bit. So now we doing a remix. And like I said, back in the days, man, there was no cameras, no Instagram, no YouTube, but we was all in the studio making the remix. Onyx, Noriega, Big Pun, my nigga Bonafuco from LA was in the studio. Rest in peace to my nigga Superb, who used to run with the Wu-Tang. He was in the studio. And here's the wild shit. That studio session, the remix studio session was crazy because my man Bonafuco, who does the first verse on the record called React, the record React on the album. Bonafuco does the first verse, the record React with 50 Cent, that record. Bonafuco and Superb came in the studio. He came with Nori. Nori brought that nigga to the studio. So Nori brought Superb to the studio. We had Bonafuco from LA in the studio. Bono and Superb, them niggas was battling all night. Them niggas was battling to the point where like them niggas wanted to fight each other type shit. Like, and them niggas was going them niggas was going at it. Superb, rest in peace to Superb, and my man Bonafuco, who's a preacher right now. He don't even rap no more. That nigga's a preacher. He's serving the Lord. You know what I'm saying? He rapping on the pulpit. You know what I'm saying? But that was an ill night, man, because Superb and Bonafuco was going at it. That nigga Nori was like, yo, your man act like he's straight from Rikers, man, straight up. The way they was going at it. And we did the remix. You know what I'm saying? Noriega, Big Punch, shit down. We holding it down. Yo, that shit was crazy. That was an ill night. And Big Pun, one of the illest lyricists ever, I got to see how he actually records his verse, because there's a formula to the way he was recording. Because you got to remember, Big Pun was spitting rhymes like a typewriter. You know what I mean? So he's a big nigga. So I'm like, how the fuck can this nigga spit like that? So what Big Pun would do, he would spit like one verse, one bar of the verse. And stop. And then spit the next verse. So like 16 times he would spit the 16 bars. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like straight through. It was like every bar was a punch. He was punching. They would call it punch. He was punching in. But the way he was doing it was just kind of like ingenious. Like, I didn't know how he did that shit. Like, you know, we have records like Purse Snatchers and records like Last Days, where we kind of had that G-rap type of flow. And it's very hard to do all that shit in one breath. So Big Pun, man, he had a method to the madness. He would do it every bar. So if you listen to the remix, man, the Shut 'Em Down remix, that's how he did it, man. You know what I'm saying? And that was a special record. You know, Shut 'Em Down album, man. To me was probably, it could be like the best album from Onyx. You know what I'm saying? We got with Wu-Tang Clan, and we did The Worst with the Wu-Tang. This is the first time we collaborated with any other rappers on any of our albums. Wu-Tang Clan, The Worst, Big Pun, Noriega, Shut 'Em Down remix, DMX. You know, and shout to my nigga X1. Shout to X1. Rest in peace to X1. You know, me and X1 was going back and forth on the worst on that Wu-Tang joint. And this kid the other day was like, yo, why you never perform the worst? I said, yo, I go back and forth with X1 on the worst, right? He like, yeah. I said, so how could I perform my verse on the worst if X1 ain't here? You know, we never performed that record with X1 or Wu-Tang and nobody like, but that was one of those records. Like I said, we was all in the studio with the Wu-Tang doing that record. And that was an ill studio session because, you know, Wu and Onyx, you know, it was a lot of competition between us. Even though it was respectable, rap is like the NBA. You got different teams and they all trying to get the championship. They all trying to get the chip. So it's competitive. So Onyx and Wu-Tang in the studio was crazy. The vibe was ill. The vibe was crazy. Killer Sin did his thing, Method Man, Raekwon, you know. It was a lot of other Wu-Tang niggas in the studio too, but they didn't rhyme. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's 9 Wu-Tang members, but those were the niggas that rhyme. So I remember that session, Sticky Fingers and Method Man went to the side and they decided to go back and forth with their verse. So they was writing their shit together. But everybody else was in different corners of the studio writing their shit. So, you know, that was one of them joints, man. The worst classic, man. Produced by my nigga Latif from Brooklyn. A lot of people don't know who produced that beat, Latif from Brooklyn. We met that nigga through All City. That was their producer. Latif from Brooklyn produced that joint. And remember, the worst was on the soundtrack for a movie. Me and Sticky was in a movie called Ride. You know what I'm saying? And Ride was the actual people who gave us the budget to get the record done. But Def Jam being, you know, being Def Jam, they was like, yo, we got to put that record on the Shut 'Em Down album as well as the soundtrack for Ride. So, you know, that record was on the soundtrack too. You know what I mean? The Shut 'Em Down album is a classic, man. It's been 25 years. And we still rocking. And yo, I want to shout out my nigga Conway the Machine. You know what I'm saying? We seen that nigga at Lemonade, Steve Lobel Dispensary in LA. We was chopping it up with him, blowing it down, blowing some of that Onyx OG. And he was like, yo, we was inside the dispensary. And he was like, yo, he told the DJ, yo, play that Onyx shit, man. That face down shit. Yo, the nigga Conway the Machine spit everybody verse on Face Down. He was like, yo, this is my favorite shit from the Shut 'Em Down album. He spit Sun C verse word for word, my verse word for word, and Sticky verse word for word. I was bugging. I was to see somebody like Conway the Machine who's came out and made himself an icon, made himself a legend in his rap shit, recite the whole fucking Face Down, which was not no single, wasn't on no video. It was one of them underground joints. Face down on the pavement. Face down on the pavement, produced by my nigga Self-Service. This nigga spit the whole shit. So that made me feel like, yo, you doing something right, my nigga. Because you got some of the illest lyricists spitting your shit from 25 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So shout to Conway the Machine, old Griselda, you know, Benny, you know, Fly God, all them niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout to them niggas. Shut 'Em Down album, man. That shit affected a lot of niggas, man. That shit came out and it did something, and it's still rocking today. So yeah, Shut 'Em Down, man. If you ain't never heard the album, play that shit right now on YouTube. Tap in with us. OnyxHQ.com. We got a lot of tour dates in Europe coming up, starting June 22nd. So make sure you tap into onyxhq.com. Shut them down 25th anniversary. Holla.